Hello, and welcome to another episode of Walk the Dog Cinema. We are on a blustery day. Kind of have that in my head with Winnie the Pooh, a blustery day. But we are not going to be discussing Disney movies. But as we walk Roca here, we are going to be discussing From Beyond the Grave, still hitting our Amicus. I will not be doing The Vault of Horror. Had to purchase that DVD, couldn't find it anywhere, and DVD won't make it in time for the Halloween, so going to be shifting gears after Halloween. But anyhow, moving on to From Beyond the Grave, another Amicus. This one not directed by any really notable horror guy. This is a first-time effort from that standpoint. The stories are written by a horror guy, but he also, that writer, makes an appearance as a character in the Monster Club, so it's kind of an interesting kind of take on that. But yeah, From Beyond the Grave, still worth a watch. This one carries probably one of my favorite Amicus shorts in it, but the overall movie still is a step behind Asylum, step behind Torture Garden, and some of the misstep for me on that is that it's still worth a watch, but it kind of incorporates a lot of kind of 70s horror nihilism into it, and I'll explain that in a bit. But we're getting on our walk. Roca's got a lot of energy, just getting home from work, and we're out and about, so sit back, listen to some spoilers if you wish to hear it, but not watch From Beyond the Grave. It's a fun one in one sense, and good for this time of year. And otherwise, so From Beyond the Grave, the anthology, it has 4 stories, kind of a small little wraparound story. Like I said, one of the 4 is like one of my favorites. It's a really well done story. Still has kind of a nihilistic out view at the end, but just getting there is so much fun, and at the same time a little unnerving in one sense. Like it's just kind of pristine British comedy horror gold to me. And I'll talk about that when I get to it. But it's about a store, Temptations Inc. That's an antique store. Basically, they have anything that your heart desires, kind of thing, kind of attitude. It's run by Peter Cushing as the proprietor. Technically, it could have been anybody. I mean, it's there for the name, but he really doesn't do much. Just kind of scowls in this one. And the character, in terms of being fleshed out, his morals are kind of morally gray. He's not inherently good guy. Yes, the people that kind of screw him over get their comeuppance, but the flip side of it is the morals also, 3 of the 4 stories, evil wins. So it's kind of a weird balance in this one. And like I said, it's very 70s. If you've seen a lot of 70s horror films, it's got that aesthetic all over the place. It's definitely got the 70s nihilism, where evil really starts winning. Doesn't matter how you go about it. I mean, you can't beat evil, but you're gonna have a price to pay. You know, it really gets into that gritty kind of where 70s, you know, like The Exorcist and Texas Chainsaw and Last House on the Left, and you know, these things scar. And so the tonality has changed since even Asylum, even though the end of Asylum, you know, you could say the bad guy wins in one sense. There's still like kind of a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek kind of look at it a little bit, and it fits the theme of the Asylum, where this one, the theme that they're going for, to me, that's kind of why this one's a little bit lesser effort in terms of those. The stories are strong, except for the moral implications of it. I just, you know, your tastes are gonna vary depending upon how you kind of view the more moralistic aspects of it. If you don't mind your evil winning, they're going to be strong stories. The gore is ramped up a little bit, and I don't mean that these things are just like gore, but within the taste of the gore, it's there. The first one's quite diabolical in that sense. I'm not saying that it just shows blood and guts everywhere, but when you think about the whole implications of it, it's very Telltale Heart in that regard. But there is quite a bit of blood in all over the place in the apartment, and so I'll get to it. But it's very 70s in that regard. So there is a little bit more like kind of brutality to things, and it is a little bit grittier and just kind of nihilistic. And so to each their own on that. I mean, I still really enjoy this one. It's really alleviated because, I mean, two of the four are kind of played for laughs on a certain level. So, that's good. And so we're going to get into it. If you don't feel the same way on that aspect of it, leave a comment. Let me know what you think, how the film reads for you if you've seen it. If you've never seen it, watch it, leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think of the movie, and what you think of Amicus. Did you like Hammer and all that stuff? British horror as a genre in a whole. What did you think of it? I really like to hear from everybody, but at the same time, please subscribe if you love movie reviews, kind of looking at different things besides just what comes out of Hollywood right now. I do some of that stuff, but I walk my dog here, we just having a movie discussion. Maybe you'll find something different or something you didn't think that you would actually want to watch, and kind of have the same taste, kind of explore it all, and not just horror, but just movies in general, all the way to silent to now. So just like movies in general, and just keep following along. And so yeah, so that's kind of the big thing with this movie. Peter Cushing doesn't need to be there in that regard. He could have been any actor. I get that we kind of see Peter Cushing in a certain way, and so he brings a kind of gravitas to the shopkeeper on a certain level, but there's no real development. He's kind of morally ambiguous when you think of it. Some of the comeuppance maybe are a little too strong on a certain level, but at the same time, 3 of the 4, and then the wraparound, but really 3 of the 4. Evil wins, the wraparound, it's just straight up comeuppance. So the first one, David Warner's in it. You don't know, he did a great movie Time After Time where he's Jack the Ripper. He's in a lot of British horror films, and even after kind of the British horror went down, he was in some other movies, but always remember him as Jack the Ripper in Time After Time, which I'd love to discuss when I get into a sci-fi movie kick. That'll be one of those I definitely will be reviewing. Haven't watched it in a while, so would love to touch upon that. But I always like David Warner. He's a really good actor. Oh, yeah, George C. Scott's Christmas Carol, which I will be probably doing this year. He is Tiny Tim's father, Bob Cratchit, and he's wonderful as Bob Cratchit in that film. So, yeah, David Warner. He kind of stiffs Peter Cushing on this antique mirror that ends up being haunted, and basically they do a great seance scene in the sequence that brings out the ghost in the mirror. It's really creepy. I love the POV of the candle and just how the candle is lit up, and it's really great aesthetic. Well done. Creepy. The mirror's kind of creepy with a lot that goes on it. And then the bloodletting starts. Mirror basically is possessing David Warner's mind to kill women, and blood's just everywhere. And again, long story short in that regard, David Warner gets his comeuppance. but in one sense he kind of wants it because it gives him immortality. And this is where I say the movie kind of gets muddled. It's a great sequence all the way up to that point where when you kind of take a step back, you're like, oh wow, this is kind of crazy. It has a lot of energy. It's well acted. But then when you really think about it, and again, it's going to repeat itself. When you really look at it, you're kind of like, well, wait a minute, he didn't really get his comeuppance. He's in the mirror now, but he let out something that was truly evil. But he's going to now influence someone to get out to do the same thing. So it like kind of implies that it's going to repeat this murder spree in the same building now. So to me, like, that moral implication's kind of muddled when it's kind of setting up that there's a comeuppance coming, but when you think about it, it really didn't. So kind of muddles the story for me a little bit. Obviously it has to be done in short bursts here, but it does, I wouldn't say leave a sour taste. It's not just so nihilistic in that regard, but it really does have that 70s nihilistic feel where it's doing that. So it's kind of like, oh, okay. And you kind of take it and you're just like, wow. Doesn't have the total punch that it's kind of trying to go for. But again, like I said, it tries to skirt a line that I think on some level fails. And that's really where the one problem with this movie is. Like I said, it's well directed, it's well acted. The story and plots are really good. The first and the fourth one kind of have similar plot elements and themes. They do end differently, but in that regard, that's about that similarity. But you know, it is a very tight and effective, scary short, and just the ending gets a little muddled. And so we get to our second story where this kind of British business guy, very well put together, walks in and looks out a mirror, and in the meantime we see a guy that looks like a crook kind of casing the joint. Steps away and he sees a medal in the mirror. Peter Cushing kind of looks at him, smiles, and he walks off and comes up upon a veteran of the army, basically British services, selling matches, cigarettes, shoelaces, and he strikes up a conversation, eventually strikes up a friendship. This kind of guy, peddler on the street, is Donald Pleasance. The notable thing about this is Donald Pleasance from Halloween and Telephone and just all sorts of movies, right? Plays it great. He plays alongside his actual daughter in this, who, again, like I said, there are spoilers, ends up kind of being a witch. And it just the way she's shot in this, there's some fisheye and just subtle distortions, and she's already got a very, very angular face, so it's played kind of creepy in this kind of really interesting aesthetic where even us as viewers kind of view her as a witch without knowing she's a witch. It's really interestingly shot, using, you know, her facial structure and all that, and kind of making her mysterious and beautiful on one level, but then something inherently sinister about her performance. It's actually kind of wonderful acting when I think about it. In that regard, it's kind of, and it's chilling. And like I said, he strikes up this friendship. So through the military, and the guy basically lies to Donald Pleasance that he, you know, was in the war and all these things, and he won the Distinguished Service Cross. So that's what he was looking at in the mirror, in the window. And of course he goes to purchase it, but then instead of purchasing it for Peter, he steals it. So now he's gonna get his comeuppance, right? Took from Peter Cushing, anything bad that happens to him or you swindle him, you're gonna get yours. And kind of develops, and the guy's married to kind of a shrew, and has a son, and both him and the wife don't treat the son very nice. The son's kind of a quirky looking kid in one sense. He's not really developed. He does fall into the plot twist. I won't give it quite away, but at the end, he falls in love with the witch girl, and then they basically voodoo doll his wife to death, and it kind of extrapolates on that. The one thing it is played with some dark humor. There is a great thing right before they essentially murder his wife. He has slept with, I think her name's Patricia Pleasance, but the witch, and Donald Pleasance's daughter. And right above the bed, it says, "All sin leads to death," or "Your sins will lead to your death," like right there. And basically, there's the denouncement, but it's gloriously in the back, the way it's framed and shot. And there's this kind of, it's like British humor. It felt kind of Monty Python-ish a little bit, just knowing the day and age of that. But I had never caught that detail until now. I haven't seen this movie like 100 billion times, but it was a detail that I kind of saw and just was, oh wow, look at it, that's kind of cool, because I kind of knew what was going to happen. So it was just a fun little catch for me. But again, at the end of this, the guy stole and he gets his, but as the plot twist comes out, it's kind of it shot at a great canted angle. But again, when it's implied, Donald Pleasance and his daughter work for the devil. I mean, it's pretty much labeled as such. And like I said, this doesn't spoil the total plot twist, but evil wins. And so you kind of look at that and you go, dang, evil wins. That's kind of crazy. So there's that. We go to the third one, and this one's my favorite. It's basically about a guy who swaps out a price tag on a snot box from $40 to $5 and still insists on getting a discount to $4. And on his train ride home, he runs into Madame Orloff, who's kind of this psychic lady, sees an elemental growing into his shoulder, and she is just one of those great kind of British kooky characters. I've seen this actress a lot in this, but she's absolutely fantastic and witty, and purely comedic gold. But there's this, I love the sense of kind of the supernatural within it. And the whole sequence, all I could think is I bet you J.K. Rowling has watched this, and this is like how she came up with Madame Trelawney or Luna, like Luna, yeah. And because the whole sequence is kind of like that. It just, they're on a train, you can kind of see like the advent of Harry Potter a little bit in this, just from that. Like I said, definitely Madame Trelawney from the movies with I forget the actress name, but Emma Thompson. And it's kind of almost the same fashion setup and everything, but Madame Orloff is an absolutely fantastic character for the short time that she's on the screen in this. But the whole basis of the elemental, we get it to where it attacks the wife of this guy, and it's done really good, and it's kind of sinisterly set up, like a little dark, but at the same time kind of humorous how it's a little bit played. And so there's this like kind of biting undercurrent to it that I really like, but also just this really playful air on top of it, and it just all meshes really well. We get to the exorcist scene with Madame Orloff, the husband and the wife, and to me it's kind of slapstick comedy gold. Just I don't know, there's like a sense of Benny Hill and Monty Python, but like I said, there's that undercurrent that it is an exorcism scene that's also, because of the wife, it's funny, but then sinister and just over the top, but there is some suspense. Are they going to be able to get this elemental? And you see how destructive it is. And, Madame Orloff is talking, and the whole time it sets up the twist. Like, that's kind of the good thing here, is like you see it coming, so it's not like this big, huge twist. And at the end of the day, when you really look back on it, evil wins again. Madame Orloff didn't win. And how it gets there, it's still interesting because it is set up from a script standpoint and how all of it transpires. And it's not inherently implied that how it goes. I'm being kind of vague because if you've never seen it, I don't want to give it all too much away, but I'm just saying that in the end, still, when you really look at it, evil wins. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, there's that. It's an elemental, but it's a sadistic, psychotic elemental that's now on the loose. So I'll leave it at that. That kind of gives some away, but yeah, I still greatly enjoy that sequence. We get to the fourth one, and it's about this writer who sees this just sinister looking door that he wants to put in his house. It leads to another dimension, kind of like with the mirror, this kind of, Marquis de Sade like figure from that time. It's like a blood room. It's all blue. He's got to kill people in there so he can get free of the door because he's been living in eternity. It's kind of standard fare. This one, though, it ends on a hopeful note. Husband and wife. It's got suspense. It moves right along. It has a great ending. It shares a lot of the same themes as the first one. It almost feels like you're watching the first movie just done differently with a door and a little bit different ending to it all. But because he doesn't swindle Peter Cushing, he survives the ordeal, but him and his wife are forever scarred from it. So that's the fourth one. It's not much to talk about. I mean, the blue aesthetic and all that, but it is all kind of just really there. It is suspenseful and has its moments, but it is kind of just generalized and kind of already been done. And then we get to the total wraparound with the guy casing the joint. He basically goes in and tries to rob Peter Cushing, and he gets a most diabolical ending. He trips, falls into an Iron Maiden, and it's not really a plot twist, but that's how the movie basically ends. Peter Cushing kind of looks at the camera, breaks the fourth wall, and basically tempts you. Like I said, it's a good movie. They're all good watches, but this one just really just has that like 70s nihilistic aesthetic. If you're into, evil winning on many levels except for one, give it a look. In that regard, maybe it'll be one of your better ones for Amicus for you. It knocks it down for me on that level. So that's From Beyond the Grave. Be prepared. I'm gonna be reviewing Monster Club next with Vincent Price, John Carradine, and it's kind of more goofy on one level, but I remember the stories being pretty good. So have a good one, everyone.